The stars blinked softly in the distant blackness of space, their light struggling to reach the vast emptiness that lay between them. The galaxy had always been a peaceful place, ruled by long-standing empires that had established a careful balance of power. For centuries, the great civilizations had thrived, untouched by any new threats, and the idea of something unknown coming from the outer reaches of the universe was almost unimaginable. But that was before the signal arrived. It began as a whisper, a faint signal, hardly noticeable at first, detected by a few scattered outposts along the farthest edges of known space. At first, the scientists thought it was a glitch, a random burst of energy caused by some strange natural phenomenon. But as time went on, the signal grew stronger, more frequent, until it could no longer be ignored. This wasn't a random burst of energy. It was a message from somewhere deep in the universe, somewhere beyond the reach of the galactic empires. The first to notice it were the Volvarians, an ancient race known for their technological superiority and their network of surveillance systems spread across the galaxy. They were the most powerful empire in the galaxy, feared by all for their vast fleets and devastating weapons. The Volvarian scientists were the first to pick up on the strange signal, and they were the first to try and decipher it. What they found was both perplexing and alarming. The signal wasn't just a random collection of data, it was something organized. It had structure, patterns, like a code. The Volvarians immediately sent the signal to the Council of the Galactic Alliance, a group made up of the most powerful species in the galaxy. The message was encrypted, but it was clear that it was not just some form of noise. It was a deliberate, calculated attempt at communication. But who would be trying to contact them from the far reaches of the universe? And why had they not heard anything from this unknown source before? The answer came slowly as the signal became clearer and the encryption started to unravel. It was human. The realization hit them all like a punch to the gut. Earth, a backwater planet located on the fringe of the galaxy, had sent the signal. How could this be possible? How could a primitive species, one that had barely reached the stars, be capable of sending such a message? The Volvarians were in disbelief. They had never even considered humanity as a threat. Earth had always been far too insignificant to matter. But now, here it was. This signal, growing stronger, pushing its way through the galaxy like a weight that could not be ignored. The leaders of the Galactic Alliance convened an emergency meeting. Representatives from every major species, from the towering Sylvanor to the cold-blooded Hydraki, sat at the long table, their faces etched with worry. The council chamber was tense, the air thick with the unspoken questions that hung between them all. If this was truly Earth, then the implications were massive. Earth had no advanced weapons, no great fleets. It was a world still in its infancy, struggling to find its place in the vast expanse of space. But this signal, it was something they had never anticipated. How is this possible? The voice of Councillor Trelgar, a towering Sylvanor with glowing amber eyes, broke the silence. We have known of Earth for centuries. They have been insignificant, unable to even defend their own world from minor threats. How could they send a message of such power? We don't know yet, replied Zarin, a member of the Hydraki, his reptilian features sharp and calculating. But whatever it is, we must treat it with caution. If they have somehow discovered a new power, one beyond anything we've ever seen, then we are at risk. The council fell into a deep silence as they considered this. Earth had always been thought of as weak, but if they had somehow unlocked something unimaginable, something that could threaten the entire galaxy, then they would need to act fast. The galaxy had lived in relative peace for so long, with each species carefully balancing power. The rise of a new player, especially one as unexpected as Earth, would upset everything. The signal continued to pulse, and with each passing moment, it seemed to grow more urgent. It was no longer just a faint whisper. It was a clear, repeating message, a call to action. It was a pattern now, a sequence of sounds that spoke of purpose. The signal wasn't just an announcement. It was a warning. On Earth, a small group of scientists had begun to study the signal, their computers whirring as they tried to decipher its meaning. Dr. Emily Harrison, a leading expert in extraterrestrial communication, had been tasked with the project. She was the first to realize that the signal wasn't just alien, it was human in origin. The sequence of data seemed almost familiar, like a human-made code. It was only when she noticed a small anomaly in the pattern that her heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just a signal from Earth. It was a signal that had been sent from Earth's future. It was almost impossible to believe, but the data was clear. Somehow, somewhere in the future, humanity had mastered technology beyond anything imaginable. They had unlocked the secrets of space travel, weapons, and power, things that would take millennia to develop in the present. And now, that future had reached back into time, sending a message to the present. Dr. Harrison immediately contacted the global government, her voice shaking as she explained her discovery. The world leaders were skeptical at first. A signal from the future. It sounded like science fiction. But as the evidence piled up, they had no choice but to believe. Something had happened on Earth, something that had catapulted humanity into a power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The implications were enormous. Earth was no longer a weak, insignificant planet. It was a force to be reckoned with. But what did this future humanity want? Was this a message of peace, or was it something more sinister? The message was clear, but its true meaning remained hidden. The future of humanity was unknown, and this signal, the first of its kind, had the power to change everything. Across the galaxy, the great empires began to prepare. The signal was growing stronger, and the urgency it carried could no longer be ignored. The Galactic Alliance began to mobilize their fleets, preparing for the unknown. Every species, every empire, every leader now had the same question in their minds. What did this message from Earth mean for the future? And as the signal continued to pulse, echoing through the stars, one thing became clear. Earth had no intention of staying in the shadows anymore. The galaxy had always trembled at the thought of unknown threats. But now, it wasn't a matter of what would happen. It was a matter of when. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The signal from Earth continued to pulse through the galaxy, growing stronger and more complex with each passing moment. For the first time in history, the galaxy's greatest empires were united in a common fear. The Volvarians, the Sylvaner, the Hydraki, and all other powerful species had always assumed they were the dominant force in the galaxy. But now, they were faced with a mystery that threatened everything they had built. Earth, once a small, insignificant planet, had become the center of attention, and the galaxy's most powerful empires were scrambling to understand what had triggered this new, terrifying reality. On Earth, Dr. Emily Harrison worked around the clock with her team to decode the signal further. The data was far more intricate than she had originally imagined, and she could feel the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. As she sat in front of the glowing screen, the signal seemed almost alive, each repetition more urgent than the last. It was as if the message was not just being transmitted through space, but also through time itself, carrying a warning from Earth's future. "Emily, we have to understand this," her colleague, Dr. Aaron Lee, said as he paced nervously behind her. "If this is truly a message from the future, then we need to know exactly what it means. What are they trying to tell us?" Emily nodded but didn't take her eyes off the screen. "We're getting closer, but it's not just about decoding it. It's about understanding why they sent it. What happened to humanity? What power did we unlock?" The signal had become more specific as the days passed. It wasn't just a general warning now. It had begun to reveal itself in pieces. The cryptic patterns now contained glimpses of future human technology, incredible weapons, ships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. And most disturbing of all, it showed Earth's fleet of warships, many times larger than anything the galaxy's current superpowers had. Earth had, in the future become the most dominant force in the galaxy. But with that power came an ominous message. The galaxy will tremble in fear at the emergence of Earth's might. The message sent shockwaves across Earth's global leadership. What did this mean for them? Earth had never been a military power. It had never been a serious contender in the galactic struggle for dominance. But now, the very idea that their planet would one day command such fear was a terrifying prospect. No one knew who, or what, would face them once Earth's battleships emerged in full force. As the global leaders discussed their options, the Volvarians were the first to take action. Known for their technological superiority, they began to analyze the signal, hoping to discover the source of Earth's newfound power. With their vast knowledge and fleet of advanced ships, they immediately dispatched a team of experts to Earth's solar system. Their mission? To investigate, and, if necessary, neutralize the potential threat Earth now posed. The Sylvanur, long known as diplomats and strategists, moved quickly as well. Their fleets, though not as technologically advanced as the Volvarians, were more than capable of defending their borders. They could not afford to ignore this growing threat. The Sylvanur fleet's strategy was simple: gather intelligence, maintain a distance, and wait. They believed in diplomacy, but if Earth had indeed developed such power, there was little room for negotiation. Meanwhile, the Hydraki, with their cold-blooded, tactical minds, prepared for war. Unlike the Volvarians and the Sylvanur, the Hydraki saw Earth's power as a challenge. To them, Earth's signal was not a plea for peace, but a declaration of war. Their fleets began to move into position, and their leaders held urgent meetings, debating whether they should strike first or wait for Earth's fleet to show its hand. Back on Earth, the governments tried to remain calm, but fear and uncertainty were mounting. What had they become? Was this really the future that awaited humanity, or had something gone horribly wrong? They were still a young civilization in the grand scheme of the galaxy, with no significant allies and no established history of power. Yet, the signal from the future suggested otherwise. It hinted at a force, a humanity, capable of not only surviving in the galaxy, but dominating it. Dr. Harrison and her team continued to work tirelessly, now with the knowledge that Earth's very existence was at stake. Every time they thought they were on the verge of understanding the signal, another layer of complexity was added. The data was not just from Earth's future, it was a future humanity had created. The power that was coming was not the result of a single breakthrough or a random event. It had been the result of a long, careful accumulation of human knowledge, technology, and willpower. And as the team worked, Emily began to understand something far more disturbing. The future Earth had not just become a dominant military force. It had begun to consume entire star systems, conquering alien races in the name of progress. The message, though steeped in fear and awe, was not just a warning. It was a testament to humanity's ruthlessness. The galaxy had underestimated them for far too long. The entire galaxy was now on edge. The Volvarians, the Sylvanur, the Hydraki, and countless other species were watching, waiting for the next move. The message had been clear: the galaxy would tremble. But no one could predict what would happen next. Earth's emergence was inevitable. It was just a question of when. In the midst of the growing tension, Earth's governments called for a global summit. Leaders from every corner of the planet came together in a desperate bid to understand their fate. Would they embrace the future that had been sent back to them, or would they find a way to change their destiny? As the summit convened, a new mystery arose. The signal had changed again, but this time it was different. The message was more urgent, almost frantic. It was as if the future humanity was trying to communicate something vital. They are coming. They are preparing to strike first. The future, you know, is one of war, and you must be ready. The chilling words echoed in every ear, and the room went silent. The future humanity was not just warning them. It was pushing them to act, to prepare. The galaxy's greatest empires were not the only ones who had noticed Earth. Something else was coming. something far worse than any of the galaxy's current powers could imagine. Now, humanity was caught in the middle. Would they embrace the power of their future, or would they try to change the course of history? The galaxy was watching, but humanity's true test had only just begun. As the days passed, the tension in the galaxy grew unbearable. The unknown future humanity spoke of seemed to draw nearer with each passing moment. The galaxy's empires had gathered their fleets, each species preparing for what they believed was an inevitable clash. The Volvarians, Sylvaner, Hydraki, and every other major power were on high alert, watching Earth's every move. The message from the future was unmistakable. Earth was a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy was about to face something it had never imagined. Back on Earth, the summit convened by the world's leaders became a scene of frantic debate. Every nation on the planet had representatives in the meeting room, their faces grim as they processed the information coming from the scientists, especially Dr. Emily Harrison and her team. The implications were enormous. Humanity was being thrust into a galactic spotlight that no one was prepared for. They had always thought of themselves as insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe, but the future had painted a very different picture. Dr. Harrison sat at the front of the room, the weight of the situation pressing down on her shoulders. Her hands shook slightly as she adjusted her glasses, but she knew she had to remain calm. Every word she spoke had the potential to change the course of humanity's future. Do we have a choice? President Olivia Michaels, leader of the United Earth Alliance, asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. She had always been a firm believer in diplomacy, in finding peaceful solutions. But after hearing the signal, after knowing what their future might look like, she didn't know what to think anymore. Emily took a deep breath. The message from the future is clear. Earth will rise to become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Whether we are ready or not, it's happening. But we still have a chance to shape that future. We can decide how we want to approach this. And how exactly do you suggest we do that? General Marcus Hargrove, a seasoned military leader, interrupted. We don't even know what we're dealing with. There's no way to predict how the alien species are going to react to us. Earth is just one planet. We have no allies in the galaxy. How do you propose we fight off the Volvarians, or the Hydraki, or the Sylvanor if they come for us? Emily's voice softened, but her words carried the weight of her conviction. The key is in the signal. It's not just about fighting. It's about understanding. The future humanity that sent the message didn't just conquer the galaxy with weapons. They did it with knowledge, with innovation, and with sheer willpower. If we can unlock that same potential, we can shape our future, not just survive it. The room fell silent. No one had an answer. The future seemed both distant and immediate, a strange paradox that left everyone unsettled. The idea that Earth, a planet that had only just begun to explore the stars, could one day control the galaxy was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The debate continued for hours, but no resolution was reached. It became clear that no one knew what the right course of action was. Earth's leaders could either try to embrace their future, or they could attempt to fight it. But both options carried risks. If they accepted their place as a dominant force in the galaxy, they would likely face opposition from the most powerful empires. And if they resisted, they might find themselves crushed before they ever had a chance to prove their worth. Outside the summit room, the world watched in suspense. The news media had already begun reporting on the strange signal from Earth's future, and the general public was on edge. What did this mean for their lives? Would they be drafted into a war against powerful alien civilizations? Would humanity be forced to defend itself against a galaxy that had long thought of them as weak and inconsequential? While the leaders of Earth deliberated, the alien powers were far from idle. The Volvarians had already begun mobilizing their fleet, sending their most advanced warships into Earth's solar system. They believed that the best way to deal with the growing threat was to eliminate it before it could grow too powerful. Their scouts had been gathering information on Earth's defenses, and they were prepared to act quickly. But there was a problem. The Volvarians had underestimated humanity's ability to defend itself. The signal from Earth's future had not just warned of the rise of humanity. It had also hinted at the technologies Earth would one day develop. The galaxy's empires had long relied on their advanced fleets and weapons, but Earth's future military was something entirely different. Earth had discovered methods of energy manipulation, new forms of propulsion, and defensive shields that could withstand even the most powerful weaponry. The Volvarians knew their fleets were powerful, but even they were starting to wonder if they could overcome what was coming. The Sylvanar, known for their diplomacy and wisdom, took a different approach. Their fleet, though not as technologically advanced as the Volvarians, was formidable in its own right. They believed in communication, in trying to find a peaceful solution to this unfolding crisis. But even they could not ignore the growing fear that Earth's newfound power represented. The Sylvanar had long prided themselves on their ability to broker peace in the galaxy, but the question now was whether peace was even possible with a force as unpredictable as Earth's future. On the Hydraki homeworld, the situation was far more grim. The Hydraki were ruthless, cold-blooded, and focused on conquest. Their fleet had already begun to make its way toward Earth's solar system, preparing for a full-scale attack. Unlike the Volvarians and Sylvanar, they saw the signal as a challenge, not a warning. They believed that Earth's rise to power threatened their place in the galaxy, and they were prepared to crush humanity before it could fully awaken. Back on Earth, the situation was growing more dire by the hour. Dr. Harrison continued to analyze the signal, looking for any new information that could help humanity prepare. The future humanity had sent not just a message, but a roadmap, an outline of how Earth could rise to power. It wasn't a simple process. It would require the combined efforts of humanity's brightest minds, the unification of Earth's nations, and the willingness to embrace the technologies that the future had made available. But Emily knew something that no one else did. As much as the signal was a message of hope, it was also a warning. The future that awaited humanity wasn't one of peace, it was a future of conflict. Earth would face powerful enemies who would stop at nothing to prevent humanity from becoming a threat. It was a battle for survival, and the choices made now would determine whether Earth would rise or fall. The galaxy's most powerful empires were preparing for war. But as they did, one question echoed in the minds of everyone on Earth. Would humanity be ready for the storm that was about to come? The future had already begun. Now, Earth had to decide how they would face it. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between Earth and the galaxy's most powerful empires escalated. The signal from the future had been received, its implications clear to everyone who had analyzed it. Earth was no longer a small, inconsequential planet. Its fate, and the fate of the galaxy, rested on the decisions humanity would make in the coming days. The signs of impending conflict were everywhere. The Volvarian fleets were on the move. The Sylvanar were in negotiations, but their patience was wearing thin. The Hydraki, ever ruthless, were preparing for a full-scale assault. On Earth, the summit of world leaders had dissolved into a fractured mess of conflicting priorities and ideologies. Some argued for a preemptive strike, pushing humanity to take the future into its own hands and act with the military power that they were destined to wield. Others, like President Olivia Michaels, advocated for diplomacy, an effort to find common ground with the galactic powers before they found themselves in an unavoidable war. The debates grew more intense as the hours passed, with leaders from every corner of Earth trying to figure out what to do. Would they accept their future as foretold by the mysterious signal, or would they attempt to shape their own destiny, avoiding the violence and conquest that seemed inevitable? The clock was ticking, and the galaxy was watching. Dr. Emily Harrison stood in the background, her mind racing. The signal had become clearer with every passing day, and she knew that Earth had a window of opportunity, a small window, but an opportunity nonetheless. If they could harness the technology and strategies outlined in the signal, they could not only defend themselves, but they could rise to the very power that future humanity had become. But Emily knew one thing with certainty. War was coming, whether Earth was ready or not. Despite the debates in the summit room, Emily had made a decision. She knew that humanity could not simply sit back and wait to be attacked. The future had shown them the path, but it was up to them to choose whether to follow it or forge a new way. She needed to act, and she needed to act quickly. "We can't keep debating forever," Emily said, stepping up to the center of the room where the leaders were still arguing. "The Volvarians are on their way. The Hydraki are preparing for war. The Sylvanar are just waiting for us to make a move. If we don't do something soon, we'll be forced into a fight we're not ready for. We need to take the first step." President Michaels looked at Emily, her expression conflicted. "What are you suggesting, Dr. Harrison?" "We need to take control of the technology from the future. We need to accelerate our advancements and make the technologies in the signal our own. The galaxy won't wait for us to be ready, and we can't afford to wait either." The room went silent. The weight of Emily's words hung in the air. Everyone knew that taking this step would change everything. It was one thing to have a message from the future, but another to make the leap into becoming that future. The leaders had already been grappling with the uncertainty of their position, but this proposal was a line they couldn't uncross. Taking control of this technology meant embracing the unknown, stepping into a future where humanity would be the most powerful force in the galaxy. "I know this is difficult," Emily continued, her voice steady, "but we're not the same humanity we were before the signal. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long, and the future has shown us that we are capable of so much more. It's time we accept that and act accordingly." It was General Marcus Hargrove who finally spoke, his voice low but firm. "I agree. The time for hesitation is over. We need to prepare for the worst, and we need to do it now. If Earth is going to survive, we need to become the power the galaxy fears." The summit room fell into a hushed silence as the leaders exchanged glances. It was clear now that there was no turning back. Earth would follow the path shown to them, and they would use the technology of the future to prepare for what lay ahead. But outside Earth's solar system, the galaxy had already begun to react. The Volvarian fleet had moved into position, and their warships, enormous and imposing, were now only days away. The Sylvanar had bolstered their forces, ready to make diplomatic overtures, but their patience was running thin. The Hydraki had deployed their most brutal warships, preparing for a strike that could wipe out Earth's defenses in an instant. Every major power in the galaxy was focused on one thing: Earth. In the Volvarian Command Center, a tense silence had fallen over the War Council. Supreme Commander Varen stood at the head of the table, his icy gaze fixed on the holomap showing Earth's solar system. His fleet, the most powerful in the galaxy, was ready to make its move. "I don't understand why we haven't acted yet," one of his subordinates said. "We've had the signal for weeks. Earth is no longer the insignificant planet we thought. They've unlocked something we didn't anticipate. We have to neutralize them now, before they become too strong." Varen's sharp eyes narrowed. "Patience. The signal from Earth's future may be more than just a warning. It's a call to action, but we need to understand more before we act. I refuse to be the first to make a mistake." Across the galaxy, the Hydraki were already moving. The cold-blooded species had no patience for diplomacy or hesitation. Commander Czar, a ruthless tactician, oversaw the Hydraki fleet as it prepared for a direct assault on Earth. They knew that humanity's rise to power meant one thing: a challenge to their own supremacy. And they would not allow that to happen. Earth's emergence was a threat to their carefully crafted empire, and they intended to destroy it before it could take root. Czar stood before a war council of his own, the sharp hissing sound of his voice slicing through the air. "We don't wait for Earth's future to catch up with them. We strike now. We show them who truly rules this galaxy." While the great powers of the galaxy prepared for war, Earth's leaders were making their own preparations. The first step was to mobilize Earth's new fleet. Under the direction of the United Earth Alliance, thousands of ships were built in secret, using the future technology revealed in the signal. Earth had never seen anything like it. A fleet of advanced warships that could hold their own against the galaxy's most powerful forces. Emily Harrison, now deeply involved in Earth's military development, stood before the first completed warship. Its sleek, angular design was a far cry from the traditional, clunky ships humanity had once used. The ship, still in its early stages of testing, was equipped with powerful energy weapons, advanced shielding systems, and propulsion technology far ahead of anything the galaxy's empires had ever seen. It was just the beginning. "We're ready," Emily whispered to herself, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that no matter how prepared they were, nothing could prepare them for the storm that was coming. The galaxy was about to be shaken to its core, and humanity would be at the center of it all. As Earth's new fleet gathered and the alien powers prepared their moves, the question remained: could humanity survive the galaxy's greatest challenge? Would they embrace their destiny and become the power the future had shown them, or would they be consumed by the forces that sought to stop them? The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the answer. The final countdown had begun. Earth's new fleet, a coalition of the world's most advanced warships, was now fully mobilized, hidden deep within the solar system. They had worked tirelessly for weeks, using every ounce of their collective knowledge to bring the future's technologies to life. These ships were no longer just human vessels. They were symbols of humanity's newfound potential, each one a piece of the puzzle that would either seal Earth's fate or ensure its survival in the galaxy. General Marcus Hargrove stood at the command center, watching the holo display showing Earth's fleet ready for deployment. His fingers hovered over the controls, ready to issue the order for the fleet to emerge. The tension in the room was palpable, and every officer knew that this moment would determine whether Earth would be swallowed by the galaxy's most powerful empires or rise to stand among them as an equal. The weight of responsibility was a burden they all shared. Outside, the stars seemed distant and cold, a reminder of the vast unknown. But within the confines of Earth's defense network, humanity had made an irreversible decision. They were no longer passive spectators of the galaxy's conflicts. They would not wait for their fate to be decided by others. They would fight to claim their place among the stars. "General," came a voice from behind him. Emily Harrison stood, her expression resolute but filled with a quiet, uncertain urgency. "We've completed the final tests on the shields. They're holding up against full power. But we're about to face far more than just their fleets. If the Volvarians, the Hydraki, or even the Sylvanar decide to strike first, we may not have the luxury of time to adapt." General Hargrove nodded grimly. "I know, Emily. But we don't have a choice. We're already being watched. We've already been marked as a threat. If we wait, we risk losing everything. We have to act now, or we won't survive to fight later." The sound of distant alarms cut through the tension in the room, signaling that Earth's fleet had been detected. It was not surprising. The alien powers had already expected some sort of response from Earth. The Volvarians had their massive warships poised at the edges of Earth's solar system, while the Hydraki were moving swiftly towards Earth with their ruthless, predatory style. The Sylvanar had remained silent, but their diplomatic overtures were no longer enough to hide the growing tension. "Volvarian forces are now within range of our defensive perimeter," one of the officers reported, eyes glued to the holomap. "The Hydraki fleet is moving in from the outer rim of the system." Emily's heart pounded in her chest. Earth's new fleet was untested, its ships still in the early stages of combat readiness. But they were the only hope for humanity's survival. The aliens thought Earth was an easy target, but they had never encountered humanity's will to survive. "General," Emily said, her voice steady but urgent, "they won't give us time to prepare. We have one shot at this. We need to launch our forces now before they strike." Marcus turned to face her, his face etched with determination. "We launch now, then. Let's show them what humanity can do." The command center erupted into activity as orders were given. The fleet was ready to deploy. The first wave of ships, each one bristling with advanced weapons and energy shields, moved out of hiding and into the space beyond the asteroid belt. Earth's fleet was small compared to the vast fleets of the galaxy's greatest empires, but it was fast, agile, and armed with technology that could change the course of the galaxy. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the alien fleets were positioning themselves for their assault. The Volvarians had already entered Earth's orbit, their warships lining up in the cold emptiness of space, their weapons primed and ready. The Hydraki were closing in, their ships cutting through space with terrifying precision. They had no intention of negotiating or waiting for Earth to make a move. Their strategy was simple: destroy everything in their path. And then there were the Sylvaner, who had always sought peaceful solutions, but now found themselves caught in a web of suspicion. The rise of humanity was an unanticipated event, one that disrupted the balance of power in the galaxy. The Sylvaner, despite their diplomatic prowess, understood that peace could no longer be guaranteed. The threat of war loomed larger than ever, and the galaxy watched in nervous anticipation as the Earth's fleet moved toward the inevitable confrontation.